you all. One of the trends that we've been talking about for some time, and I think we've mentioned it several times already today, is the trend towards ecosystems. And I'd like to kind of move to that point. And I'll use one of the questions submitted by one of the audience to get us there. It says, sorry, let me get this right. We see other CTRM vendors moving to providing App Store-based modules, i.e. risk module, trade capture, etc. What's the panel's thoughts on this? Is it the future? So I guess what this person is asking is this concept of having your app or apps in an ecosystem and then making other people's apps or your own customers' apps available through an app store online. Let's go to Richard Williamson first.
Yeah, I mean, it's been our approach too. You have your CTRM, you have a CRM module, you have your contract management module, rich and deep in its own way as a standalone, through to the inventory and everything else on the CTRM arena. But developing a marketplace for connecting with your suppliers and customers, we have an app for that. Integrates with ours, it's open APIs, integrate with whichever CTRM system. Linking with, we have another app we have around the sustainability ESG areas is an audit data capture and mapping tool. It's not about building out more functionality within the CTRM monolith system. It really is about providing these specific apps that serve a specific purpose and making sure that they integrate with things.
Very good. Let's go to Richard Philcox again at SAP, because how does that sit in an SAP world, Richard?
So we have a business technology platform, and on top of that, we build apps and we invite partners to build apps. So we're very much moving in that direction. What we're also doing is looking at grouping apps in an industry specific manner, so that we're effectively building industry specific ecosystems where all of the apps within that ecosystem are pertinent to that industry and are common user case functionality for that ecosystem on an industry basis. So the platform itself is really the foundation, and then it gives freedom to both SAP but also third-party organizations to build usable components, as Richard referred to, that are specific to a purpose, but that can use a common core platform that is reliable, scalable, and performant.
Good. And Ganesh, what's Inuit's position on this?
No, I think I'm going to take an answer in two parts, right? I think the question from the audience was, is it the trend? I think the trend is it. Is it the future? I'm not sure, right? So there are two ways I look at it, and that's my personal view. One is definitely the app-based store, but we are talking about not paper trading, the physical trading, and especially when you're dealing with multi-commodities, there is a lot of nuances and complexities have to be thought through. So even though it's very said that, hey, this is the technology trend, we are all going towards the app-based store, that's a trend. Yes, it is the future, but the connectedness of the app in providing a value across a trading value chain is yet to be quantified. And as Chirag said at the start of the point, blockchain was a buzzword for a very long time, right? And the buzzword becoming a use cases, practically applied and solving a business problem took some time, right? I think I would just say definitely that's a trend from a technology standpoint, and how it's going to actually impact the future of how the ETRM products are evolving, sold, implemented. Definitely it has got an impact onto it. But my view is it has to be connected, and then it has to be solving a problem, and it used to be optimizing a value chain of what you're trying to do by actually having an app-based application. The second thing I would just say is from Inuit standpoint, of course, we are absolutely have to be at the trend or be ahead of the trend. So we actually have a lot of microservices-based architectures and openness and connectedness to enable these kind of collaborative platforms. And I'm also a big believer of not a single product should solve all the world problems, right? So I think the app-based approach will be a good approach where we say that, okay, if we can actually create something for the market from a collaborative perspective, where if I bring in the best of my risk engine towards talking about something else, and actually that's where the real power gets passed on to the customers. So the ecosystem evolves when everybody collaborates, not just products talk to each other. right? That's
Good.
my view anyways. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Ganesh. So let's get the user point of view. How about Ben? Is this a trend that's useful to you as a user?
I have to admit, I feel, I think I'd have to agree with Ganesh's points, actually, is that you don't necessarily want to have one system which tries to solve all the problems, because effectively you could end up not being the best system for any of those problems. And you might find that you're spreading yourselves. I'd rather have something which is practical and useful, and I can trust the data that's producing out of it. Again, usability is important. I like the idea that you can have a system whereby you can add in through APIs different modules, which may be beneficial and supportive of your wider business interests, but might not be directly related to your business interests. So, for example, a bit like Richard said on Gen 10, where they have an ESG audit functionality. Now, that's very interesting. How would you attach that to a client in regard to, does it need to be client specific? If it does, then yes, you can attach it to the client module, which goes back onto your contract. So that could be very useful as well when you're looking at auditing the processes. But I think the most important thing is apps themselves as an idea is, I think everybody's got an app on their phone where they've looked at it, tried to use that app, and it's not actually as good as the actual website, for example. So it's purely from a technology perspective, our app's the solution for everything. I think more as a concept rather than necessarily as actually an application, they may well be. And I'd say for me, the key thing I have as a user is usability, and it's just having that comfort of the data being accurate and not having to cross-check it, because for some reason I've got an app from Inuit and I've got an app from Gen 10 and I've got an app from somewhere else. I want to just have that comfort that I turn it on, it does what I want it to do, and at the end of it I can pump out data which is useful and appropriate for my needs, and I don't have to second guess it.
I think that's a really good point, and certainly one that was worth making. Thank you. What about Alex?
Yeah, I agree with Ben wholeheartedly. I think a lot of the time in CTRM it doesn't work very well as it is. So why would we suddenly make it more complicated? And then if I'm going to have like a bunch of apps for different parts of the trade life cycle, I think CTRM vendors have been selling CTRMs for years on a modular basis, or so they say. And then if I wanted apps for different parts of the trade life cycle, I would want them from the same vendor. So therefore, why wouldn't I just have the system? So I think like it's a nice idea. It's something to bear in mind for the future as things change. Obviously, these ideas, these innovations are how we progress, but personally, I don't see how I would use that or gain any benefit from it at this point in time with my own systems that I'm setting up.
Very good, thank you. Jarek.
Sure. If I think I can take a small step back. So from a client's point of view, when there's a need of a new application, I think the company should be really rigorous and disciplined and ask questions to the team pitching this application. Why am I building it? Why am I buying it? Or am I buying it off the shelf? How will it connect to my existing ecosystem? How will it be supported in the future? I think companies should kind of take like a Shark Tank approach when going out on this journey towards adding a new solution, and maybe answer 4 things. Number 1, what is this problem statement am I trying to use with this app? What am I trying to solve with this? And then consequently present solution to the team. And here are the ways this can be solved. Here's the pros and cons, and then prioritize which is the best option among them. Number 3, communicate that very clearly to all stakeholders involved, especially the business users who are actually going to use the app at the end of the day. And finally, I think there should be a mechanism for open feedback from people across the organization. We see town halls happening in companies showcasing solutions built, but we rarely see ideation sort of town halls, and which involve people from a wide variety of backgrounds, front, mid, back office. You get your legal team in, get your tech team in, and present that. Say, here's the problem, here's what we've identified. This is the way we're thinking of solving it. What do you think? And take critical feedback. And I think at the end of that time, this would also give you a new perspective of seeing things which you might have not thought about before. I think if this framework or rigor is not in place, you will end up with really high value short-term solutions, which will become more of a technical debt in future.
Very good, thank you. We've got a really good question, actually, that I would like to pose. And let's start with yourself, Still.